In this presentation, we'll be taking the previous file we created that had a menu and 3 submenu elements, and we're actually going to fill the content for it now. I'm just showing you the directory right now that you should have for this particular assignment. Here are the assets in a folder that you should have downloaded and unzipped, and you'll get a little folder called Assets with a MP3 audio file, a very short MP4 video file, and a graphic. Okay, you should also take that previous file and do a save as and name it last name underscore 02, meaning lesson 2. Okay, you do need to have it in a proper project folder, if you will, because once you start testing this movie in HTML5, it's going to generate a whole slew of subfolders that support that file in HTML. Okay, so once you have this directory put together, we'll move over to Adobe Animate and start with the file that we ended off with in our previous lesson. Okay, so at this point I will do a quick test movie to remind ourselves what it's doing. And again, I'm just going to use this little button in the upper right corner. Okay, and there we go. And let me just mouse over the menu so the 3 submenu items fly out, and if I mouse away from it, they retract and disappear. So they're animated, animating the opacity as well as the location. Okay, so if I was to click on any one of these, song had the song as you saw in a progress bar with a photo to accompany it. The contact link, I'm going to have you create a simple nameplate behind your first and last name and just have it shimmer across about 8 colors so that it does this seamless transition from color to color as you see here. Okay, and I'll show you all of this when we get into the file. And the last item here was the video. So we will have a genuine video as well using a video component, and that video again is supplied to you. If you want to use your own video, by all means, as well as the song if you want to use your own song. I will ask to keep them short though. Alright, so let's go back here again. And yeah, so the song. Now one thing I'm going to point out as well here is that when we leave the song stops playing, and that's a little bit of code we'll actually have to input manually in order to shut the sound down when we go away from the song. Okay? Otherwise the song would continue to play. So having explained all that, let's go back to our file and start with adding content. Okay, so I actually have a finished version of the file open here as well that I'll reference to, and here is our current file. They kind of look the same on the first page. I'm just going to go fit in window here and make that a little bigger. And I'll go through the finished file very quickly here just to point out a few big steps. You can see here that we do have the 4 distinct sets of keyframes. So basically we're creating the illusion of 4 separate pages or stops within our title. And if I just bounce over to the video page here, we've got a video component, and we are calling in the video that's been provided, and I just have a text element below. The big point here is that all of this content is inside a movie clip, and that's how it should be for each one of these different pages. The content should be all inside of a nested movie clip. Okay, so if I click on there, you can see movie clip, and there's no instance name here because I don't have any programming associated with that clip, but I can double click it to actually go in and affect the content here. Okay, so if I click on here, there's my video component. If I call up my window, we'll just call up the components, and we'll call up actually the component parameters is more applicable right now since the component's already here. And you can see the various properties and the values that you can set. The big one here, of course, is the source, which determines what video is going to play in there. Okay, so maybe I'll just put these over here for now. And let's go back outside of that movie clip and we'll look at the other two. The song, again, if I click here, you can see with the blue outline, this is a movie clip as indicated in my properties. I'll double click to look at the content. And here I have a number of layers. I have an actions layer, although I haven't applied any actions in here. If I wanted to create a stop at the end, that's where I would do it. But I do have a layer for the song, and you can see here the audio sound waves showing up there. A layer for the stroke, which is this red line. It's like a container, I guess, for the animated fill, which you can see here is animated using a shape tween, and it's just this small little sliver of green that gets bigger and fills this bar until the song is over at the end, and I can show you that at the other end here. Right there. So there's a keyframe at the end of the animation of the fill. If I move my playhead, you see that it's almost filled up there, and the song line flattens, indicating the song is also over. The photo is just a static element on its own layer, and the stroke as well is just a static element on its own layer. Okay, so that's the sound file, the song inside of a progress bar. And if I drag this across, you can see how that progresses. Okay, so let's get out of that movie clip. And the last one over here is the shimmering colors, if you will, as a backdrop. So I've got the text layer right here, or rather the text element, and underneath it is the movie clip. So the text element, let me just point something out here. It was turned into a movie clip as well, separately, so that I could apply a filter, and the filter in this case was a drop shadow. You can't apply these filters to raw text, so I had to turn it into a movie clip. Any symbol would have worked. I just chose movie clip. Okay, and here are the particulars of the drop shadow properties. Now let's talk about the shimmer in the back. It's this box, and that is also a movie clip. So there are two movie clips in this keyframe on my content layer. Okay, so let's double click that, and it's a very simple little animation. I'm just going to bring this down a bit and show you. There's the stroke, which is the outline. There's a layer I call tint. It's actually a white box on top, and if I click on it here, I have it set to 55%. That's so I can just play with the lightness and darkness of the colors underneath. If I hide that, you'll see the pure color underneath. Okay, now the big layer underneath is called fill, and that is the one that has all the color changes, and you can see the keyframes. So I basically went into the color palette, and I just went up the slider here, picked 8 consecutive colors, and I had my picker up in that corner there. Okay, I'll let you pick the colors you like, but let's see here. There's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 8 keyframes. What I will ask is that you make it seamless. Therefore, the first keyframe has to match the last keyframe. All these ones in between, choose a color of your liking, and when it scrubs across, it does transfer to the next color. Okay, I have mine 30 frames apart. I'd like you to do yours at least 30 frames apart and not shorter. This is 1 second per color, but they do transition constantly, right? Okay, and that is the, I'll call it the shimmer movie clip underneath the name. Come back up to the scene 1 timeline. Again, there's a movie clip with your name in it so that we can apply drop shadow, and there's a movie clip behind it creating an animation of colors changing over time. Okay, and our main timeline again is already created in the previous lesson. We're going in and we're basically creating the content inside of each of these movie clips. Okay, so that's how it's built. That's what we're going to create on this unfinished file over here. Okay, so let's start with the video content. So I'm going to move my playhead over to align with the keyframes for my video elements and make sure that I have the content layer selected. I'm just going to click on what I had in there from my previous exercise, and I took it to the step where, even though it was just a placeholder, I did embed it in a movie clip. So it has to be a movie clip, and I can see over here that it is a movie clip. Now if you didn't create one, just start with your first element, select it, and go up and modify, convert to symbol, and choose movie clip. Okay, since mine is already a movie clip, I'm going to double click it, and then I'll start to edit it within the movie clip timeline. Okay, so you can see here I'm inside of the movie clip called Video MC, which is sitting in scene 1, of course. As I said, I'm just going to edit this. This was just meant as a placeholder, so I'm going to get rid of this little red box here. And I will keep the text in there. And let me see here. I think I'll just call this one text, this layer. And I'm going to create a new layer for my video component. And I'll just call it video. Okay, so it's in this layer that I'll drag my video component, which you drag from the components panel. Again, if it's not on your screen, go up to Window, Components, and call it up. Okay. Now, I happen to know, I'm anticipating something here, that I have a library item already called video. It's probably going to warn me about that. Okay. And if that's the case, I'll go and change the library button name and then come back. But just check this out here and watch what happens. Yep, there it is. Again, I do not want to replace it. I'm going to cancel. And I'm going to go to my library, double click that video element, and I'll just call it video BUT for button. Okay. And now there won't be a conflict of names. That's what it was about, because this is going to be named video as well. Wasn't part of the lesson plan, but it is something that it just occurred to me. So if you confront that, you'll know what that's all about. Okay. So let me drag that video component to the screen now, and there we go. It's all nice and friendly, and it's allowing me to bring it in. And if I was to go to my library, and if I just bring this down a bit here, there is my video element right there. Okay, and I'll keep the components window right here, the properties. So let's select that, and we'll start to address it by adding a video. What's really critical right now, I'm going to go out to my desktop again for a second, is that that video is inside of your project folder and it remains in the same location, because we're going to create what's called a pathway. So it's actually linking to the video, it's not embedding it. Okay, very important. So I will leave it in the folder called Assets, and we're going to call it up here. Okay, but when I upload this to the internet, I would have to maintain that folder name and the content inside of it. Okay, so here we go. We're going to click on the little edit button for source. And again, this is the content path. You click on the little folder. And let me just come down to, I know it's in my Animate exercise folder in Fly Menu HTML5. And my videos are in there. And I will select that video. Okay. There we go. Now, let's see. I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to let it stay on autoplay so that when you click the button, it will begin to play immediately. Leave the controls on. Loop, I think I'm going to turn loop off. Okay. And we'll leave the rest as is. So let's just do a save right now and test the movie here. Remember, this is all inside of a movie clip. So maybe, you know what, I'm just going to work with the layout a little bit here. And actually down on this text layer, I'm going to add a little frame. I'm going to make it a dark blue color here. Just change my opacity up to 100%. Turn off my stroke. A lot of work just to make a little box. But by being on the layer below, it's going to sort of create like a frame here, right? It's just a graphic, it's just a square box. And I can go and modify that later if I want. But for now, let's just put that in there. Okay. And let's see. Okay, we'll save that. And we'll give that a test. So clicking test movie. All right, so I'm going to go over to my video page. And there we go. All right. So the next elements will be, I guess we can deal with the song next. So I'll replace this placeholder with an actual song that's playing with a progress bar. Okay, so let's just close that and move on here. Anytime you test a movie, you will have to switch from the output window back to the timeline. All right, so let's get out of this movie clip. We'll go up to scene 1 and we'll move our playhead over to align with the song keyframe. And I already have a movie clip on screen as well in my keyframe on my content layer. Again, it was just a placeholder from the last assignment, but I can actually work with this. So I'm going to double click it. Again, if you don't have one existing, just maybe create your text element to start with, select it, go up to modify, convert to symbol, and create a movie clip. Then double click it once you've created it and create all your content inside the movie clip like I'm about to do right now. So double clicking here. Okay, so again, I will just rename this layer text. And I'm going to select that bar, or maybe, you know what, maybe I'll delete it and make a bigger one. And I'll create it on a new separate layer. Okay, so let's make a new layer. I'll call this one fill. And I know I'm going to need a layer for the stroke as well, so I'll create one in advance here. Stroke. And let's see here. I'll need one for the song also. Song. And let me see here. I think we'll run with that for now. I'm not sure if I'm going to need to apply any code on this, but I will save my file. Okay, so to begin with, I'll import my audio file. Import, and I'll bring it into the library. So I just need to go and find it here in my assets folder. There we go. So a fairly short clip, that's why I picked that. I'm going to actually close this components parameter as I don't need it right now. And come up to the song layer and select that first frame. And then over in my properties, I have the sound components, and anything in the library will show up in this list. And there we go. And at this point, it does need to span the duration of the song. So that's the only little grunty part here. So I'm going to drag down to start with across all layers on frame 100 and hit my F5 key to span that. Then I'm going to move my playhead just a little before the last frame and hold my F5 key. That will enable me to just hold the key down and push it out until I find where this orange audio wave comes to a flat line, which will indicate that the audio is finished. Okay. And this may take a little while, but it takes as long as it takes because the audio has to play out at this 30 frames per second rate. So I'm just holding the F5 key down. Again, with the playhead just a few frames before the end. And you can see how it's flattening out there, so I know that that's the end of the song. And at this point, I'm going to create my graphics. I will save as I go here. So I'm going to start on the fill layer, so I'll select that first keyframe on my fill layer, and I'll go to my rectangle tool, and I'll establish a fill in a stroke color. I think for the stroke, I'll just keep it black maybe. For the fill, I'll go with the heavy red here. And just draw that box, and this will ultimately be my progress bar. Okay, there we go. And maybe I will double click that just to make the stroke a bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so what I need to do next though is separate the stroke from the fill. You see I have dedicated layers for each of those. So let's double click on the stroke alone, edit cut, and then go up and select that first frame in my stroke layer, edit paste in place. There we go. It's on its own distinct layer now, and we're free to animate the red fill. So I'll start by just right clicking on the first frame in the fill layer, and we'll just apply a shape tween. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the last frame. You see there's a series of dots. It does need a second keyframe to create a tween, but it's now technically set up. So I select that last frame and hit F6 to create a keyframe, then return back to the first frame and alter the graphic. So I'm going to actually come to here with my playhead, select the red fill, go up to my free transform tool, and I want to make this go to the left and shrink it. And you do need to hold down your Option key or your Alt key on the PC to have it pinned to the upper left. Otherwise, it will resize on its center point. Okay, and if I drag this just to see, you can see that it's progressing with the song. So we're going to save that right now. And I'll say that's fine for now. Let's give this a test. I'm going to come back up to scene 1 here again and just go back to my selection tool and click away and do a test movie. Okay, so here we go. Song. There we go. Now there's going to be an issue. You hear it's overlapping, right? Let me just close this so it doesn't get too crazy. So we need to address that with some manual code. So let's take care of that right now. All the code for the buttons that are in the menu will be inside of the menu on frame 20. So let's go to frame 20 on the menu and call up our Actions panel. I guess I didn't technically need to go there, but it gives you a good idea where the code is. And in my Actions panel, I will just click on frame 20. If I was to expand this, you would be able to read Actions frame 20 inside of the menu right here. So when we are clicking on one of the other two submenu items, namely video and contact, we want to stop the song sound from playing. So let's see where we're at. So we don't want to put that code obviously on the song button or it will never play. And where that goes is inside of the function where you can see here go to and stop video. For the video, I'm going to click at the end of that line and hit return and type in the following. Create JS for JavaScript dot capital S for sound dot stop empty brackets semicolon. All right, so that's kind of your magic spell to cut the sound out as soon as the code encounters that line. I'm actually going to copy that and type that in to the next function for the contact button as well. So we'll come down here after the go to and stop, click at the end of the line, hit return, and I'm going to paste that same code in create JS dot capital S sound dot stop empty brackets semicolon. And let's save that and test it. Okay, so here we go. All right, so I'll go to the song. And then I'll go to another page. And the song did stop. Okay, so we've got one page left to do, and it's the easiest of the three, in fact. All right, we'll just test that again with the contact button as well. Start the song. Go to contact, and that code magically eliminates the sound when we click on one of the other buttons. Okay. And we'll take this home, I guess. Let me just close my Actions panel here, go back to my timeline. We'll go back up to our scene 1, over to contact, and let's just click on the graphic here, which is still just a static text in this case. So let's convert this now to a movie clip. And notice I am in the content layer on that keyframe for contact. All right, so with that selected, modify convert to symbol. Movie clip, I will name it Shimmer. Name it whatever you want, my name, anything you want. Okay, and I will double click it to go inside, and this is where we're going to edit everything. So I'll start by renaming that layer inside text, since that's where the text is sitting. And I'll create another new layer up here. And I think I'll do sort of a similar thing. I'll do a box with a fill, and I'll put them on separate layers. So I'll call this one fill. And this one stroke. And we'll leave it at that for now. So on the fill layer, I will draw a box here. And that's plenty big to host this. I'll deal with the name shortly as well. So let's say I want 8 keyframes times 30 frames. So that's 240 frames, I think. I'll just shrink the view here a bit so I can go to frame 240 and just span it out and give or take a frame here. F5 to span that out. And I am going to save as I go. Okay. So now I'm just going to cut the stroke from this fill layer and move it up to the stroke layer. So I'll just double click that stroke layer and edit cut. And then come up to the layer, first frame in the layer called stroke. And edit paste in place. Okay. So now they're on their own separate layers. If I hide the stroke or hide the fill, and it's the fill that we want to animate. So again, I'm just going to shrink this back down here. And we already have a keyframe at the end for the fill. So let's see. Oh, you know what? On that keyframe, let me get rid of the stroke. I'm going to hide this. Oh, no, it's not there. That's okay. All right. Shrink that back down. Okay. So let's just go in here to this keyframe and move over to frame 30. And we'll just keyframe each 30 frames, and then we'll go in and change its color. Or I can keyframe it now and change the color. So that would be an F6. And if I go to my properties and click on the stage, I'm just going to go to my color picker here and just go up a notch like that. Click OK. So I'll go now to frame 60. I'm going every 30 frames here. Okay. F6 to keyframe it. Select it on the stage. Call up my color picker. And just bring it up another notch. You can choose any colors you want. Okay. So frame 90, F6, select it on the stage, change its color. You can't see the color picker is just outside of the capture range here, but it's that little circle. Okay, there we go. And then frame 120. And if I'm a frame off or so, it's not really going to be a big deal. F6, select it on the stage to change its color. And just getting into the deeper blues here. Okay, this would be frame 150 next. I'm just going to click away and reselect that. There we go. And let's see, up from there, we're getting into the warm blues, verging on purple. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 more. So that would take me to frame 180. Select it on the stage. And I'm getting into the magentas here. And all right, now frame 210. Keyframe it, F6. Select it on the stage. Apply the new color, which will be the hot red, I guess, like that. And just apply shape tween. Now I can apply it one time for the whole layer by clicking on the layer name. I will move my playhead back to the beginning, click on the layer name again, and right click here and go create shape tween. There we go. If I click away, you'll see that orange line, and if I scrub through, you'll see the colors cycling through. And because the last color is the same as the first color, it will be seamless. Let's just save that. I'll go back up to actually, let's deal with the name. Sorry, I didn't deal with the name here. That's on its own layer. Now I'm going to drag that to be on top, of course. Change the color. So I'm going to select it all, and I'm going to change it to a white. And I'll just go to my selection tool and drag that over top here. Okay. If I want to change it like the font or the size, I can do that now, and I'm going to make it a little bigger. There we go. All right, so let me go back to my selection tool. Now I want to apply a filter, but if I pop open the filters, you can see they're grayed out. Okay, so it needs to be a symbol. So I'm just going to select that text layer and convert it to a movie clip, which will give me access to the filters. Okay, convert to symbol. I'll call it name and movie clip, and click OK. And now that that is a movie clip, suddenly my filters are available. Okay, so I can click Add, and I'm going to choose Drop Shadow, and maybe I'll just lessen that severity a bit. And I'm good with the rest of these properties, so I'm just going to click away here and save. Now just turn back the visibility for my stroke and save it again. And let's just give it another test movie. I'm going to use my keyboard this time. On the Mac, Command Return. On the PC, Control Enter. Okay, here we go. I'll start with the song. I'll move over to video. I'll actually start and stop the video, but you notice that the song did stop playing once I shifted over here. Now this can go full screen and so on. It has all of those properties built into the bar here. Okay. And let's go back to the song quickly. And then I'll switch over to Contact. There we go. And again, the song did stop. And you can see the colors shimmering behind the highlighted name. Okay, so that's your assignment today, to take the previous assignment and add these three major components, these three major movie clips as elements. Okay, so there's the shape tween for the name, there's the video component for that page, and then there's the song. Once you're done with that, hand that FLA file into Canvas. And that's our assignment for today.